right, good evening. Welcome to our February meeting. Don't have a whole lot of notes that came out this month, but I do have one. Our summer clinic for TBA is coming out on June 25th in Conroe. They're looking at $85 for the TBA members. Non-members is $100. It'll be down in the Conroe Lone Star Convention Center. So if you're interested in those, I'd suggest go ahead and get in the schedule for those before it gets filled up. Our summer clinics do seem to be filling up really quick. I think the last year we had last time it was done is about 600 participants. So if you're interested, look on the Texas Beekeepers Association site, get signed up there. We got Dr. Keith Delaplane coming on. He's a really good guy to hear, and a lot of different classes to go on to there. So definitely be on the lookout for that and then get signed up for that. And also our November clinic for TBA is also not up yet, but they already got the date scheduled for those for this fall. So like I said, if you want a good place to go, our summer clinics are good, and the conference is very good on a lot of good speakers. Speaking of that, the speaker that was on this last year, Dr. Lewis Bartlett, if you're connected to our Facebook page, he's done some presentations. It's got it on YouTube. Definitely get a hold of him. He's got some very good stuff to put out, and a lot of different data as far as the viruses and things and varroa that are causing problems with our bees. So he's given us a lot more information now that we've got a good place. He's an infectious disease etymologist and an evolutionary biologist. So he's got quite a background out of the University of Georgia. So yeah, check out his YouTube page. If you're not signed up on our Facebook, get signed up. If you've paid your membership, we'll let you right on. That's part of being on the private page, and then we also have the public page. So get signed up onto our Facebook page and post some questions if you got questions. It's a good place to do. We try to keep track of that. And that way we can have people answering, so you may get lots of different answers from other beekeepers. So it's a good way to keep networking since we're not meeting in person. I'm hoping to have that fixed here pretty soon. I've got several places I need to go check out personally to make sure we got some good parking area. And the price is cheaper than what we were paying for the college. So it might be worth looking into, but it may be down in the downtown McKinney area. I just got to make sure we got enough parking. So we do need volunteers. If you're interested in volunteering, we need a newsletter editor to help us put out the newsletter. If you noticed this last month, it was just a letter from myself and my dad because we were short a newsletter editor. Things just got too tough for Scott going in there and work. So we need somebody that can spend the time. We'll help you get that put together. Also, we need some extra help, just volunteers overall. All throughout the year, we're looking for stuff and trying to get people to help us out. And we'd like to be able to spread some things around and get some other people helping us look for stuff. Like I said, it's when you got just a few board members working and trying to get a whole bunch of stuff done throughout the month and your job too, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So many hands make a light load. All right, so I'm gonna get started here and with our BeeTalk, and that's another one. If you want to do BeeTalk, we're gonna get currently we're looking at getting our queen and princess to start doing this. But like I said, if you're interested in doing some helping out, we'd definitely like to have you help us out. All right, so our February BeeTalk, as you saw just this last couple, this is not last week, yeah, the last weekend, we had that nice cold weather. We actually had to cancel the seminar here just because of the icy conditions of the road. But by Saturday, I think it looked pretty well for most people, but we still had a couple of days of cold. We got another front coming in. We'll get some cool mornings, but they'll be warmer in the afternoon. So this is the time to start really pumping and checking your bees on those warm days. Like today, I think it was like 71 degrees. I think tomorrow's gonna be in the 70s. So if you get a chance, that'd be a good time to check your bees and see where they're at as far as their resources. We've been putting out lots of pollen, dry pollen here lately, and they've been going crazy for it. So definitely be looking at that. So you definitely want to start trying to check your bees and get them prepped for the spring. So, like I said, just make sure you check your hives. They may have a few frames of brood. We had a situation over here this year that we actually went broodless, so it kind of worried us a little bit. Or most of them may have the size of a golf ball. Called some other commercial beekeepers, and they were saying the same thing: is that it just basically got shut down due to the lack of pollen, and we can kind of pin that on the weather we've had this last year, that we just didn't have the right kind of environment to help our flowers this year, and they were just not as good as they've been in the past. So if you need to put out the pollen patties, go ahead and put out some now. I would probably cut them either down in halves or quarters and only give them enough that they can eat right away, and that way it'll kind of keep that brood fed. And then if they're stuck in there for a little while, I don't see any projections for any more severe cold, but like I said, those cold mornings, they can be eating on those pollen patties while they're clustered, and then keep feeding those brood and get your brood boxes all the way up. Make sure you have one deep full box of bees and at least 20 or more, and have at least 20 pounds of stores in the second brood box. We've actually had to take down a lot of our second brood boxes and push them down into the one box just because of stores and the number of bees. It was a lot easier to keep them in a larger cluster down in one box instead of trying to get them to cluster into the two boxes and have lots of extra space. So definitely check that. Make sure you've got plenty of room for your bees, plenty of stores. If not, you can do your syrup feeding. And like I said, with the pollen patties, like I said, we've been putting dry pollen out. They've been going nuts on the dry pollen. So we've had that out since the freeze starting that Monday, and I've already probably gone through about maybe 120 pounds, maybe 160 pounds of pollen already. So they're putting a good dent into the pollen. We did find out that we did see some early signs of some pollen, and we found out that mistletoe can be one of those early sources. So if you've got mistletoe in your area, you might be seeing some white pollen coming in from that. And like I said, it was a surprise to us too. But one of the beekeepers was watching, and he found out it was coming from mistletoe. Like I said, inspect on a warm day. Make sure that it's not, it's a couple of days before. Like if we're going to have another cold spell, make sure that the bees have time to seal that lid back up and get to a good cluster, and that way there's no air gaps coming through there, or the lid being able to get blown off from these high winds. I think on Wednesday they're estimating like 25-mile-an-hour winds. So like I said, if you're gonna do some checking, make sure you get those lids back down, or may have to put a brick on them or something just to keep them from coming off. If we still got some of these strong winds, you may want to put a little block underneath the bottom if you got the screen bottom boards, or some kind of wind protection around the base of your hive, just to keep that cold wind from coming straight up into your hive there. You don't necessarily have to insulate. I haven't found any place here in Texas that really needs to insulate. I had a question in one of my classes about insulating the lid, and I just told them, I said, our Texas weather just doesn't seem cold enough to really where they have to insulate. And if you've watched our weather enough, that you'll know that we'll have a winter time in the morning, springtime by mid morning, by afternoon you got summertime or almost the summertime, and then fall weather back before the daylight. And if you look out now too, we're getting a little bit more daylight as each day comes on, so the bees will be able to actually go out and forage more. With your weak hives, I would say if you're down to 1 or 2 frames of bees, that they're probably not going to survive. You may want to combine them with another hive, just because they're just not going to be able to stay warm enough that if the temperature gets really down cold. Or like I said, if you've got a way to get them down into a smaller box, you may want to put them down into a smaller box. I've heard several people that took nook boxes and actually overwintered some bees, so that would get them down to some lower populations and less areas to have to keep warm, and that way they can keep their brood warm. But if you're really looking at it, they're down to 1 to 2 frames. I would probably look at starting to try to combine those hives. If maybe you have 2 week hives, combine the 2 week hives. If you've got one that just needs some extra bees, that maybe shake them off into that one. Like I said, cold fronts are normal this time of year. Like I said, we're into February, but it should start warming up a lot more, and they can handle it. Just like I said, just make sure you got enough stores in there. Like I said, start putting some pollen out. Like I said, we're seeing, like I said, our bees are really going after the pollen, so that'll definitely help them start boosting up before the springtime hits, and you'll get some good brood coming out of there, and maybe even a chance to split this spring. So here's spring. Our early time is going to be in the trees. So like our elms, oaks, and all those kind of ones will start blooming out early. I know that with this freeze, I've seen lots of buds on some trees, and it froze those off. So the trees are going to have to put out some more. But we have been seeing some early signs. My dad was actually walking out in the field, I think it was about a week ago, and saw our first dandelion coming up out in the field. So that's another indicative time that our spring is coming. So when our dandelions really start going, so our early pollen flows will be our trees and then into the dandelions. And so those will be some good areas. Like I said, somebody showed us that mistletoe was one of them too, but definitely start ramping up for what you're going to be doing for the spring, and then keeping those guys ready, because hopefully we'll have a good year this year. Nothing like we had last year with all the rain early in the season and then drought after that. Hopefully we get the right year and make lots of bees and make lots of honey. So like I said, some of the early springs, we got the broomweed, our dandelions, we got some of the asters. These are the three pictures you see here. The broomweed to the left, the dandelion to the center, and then the purple asters. You'll see those as low ground cover coming up. Like I said, and as it gets a lot warmer, it'll start getting a lot bigger. And with the broomweed, you're going to see a lot of that early on, or that we call it in the mustard family. You're going to see that hitting a lot of the fields. So that'll be some of the early signs in some of the rural areas. These fields will start popping up with a lot of the yellow flowers. Like I said, my dad said he saw the dandelion. I haven't seen anything yet, but like I said, due to the freeze that we had early on, some of this stuff has been bit back because of the freeze. So yeah, just be watching that, and as it starts coming out, you can definitely watch what your bees are doing. All right, so some of our current conditions, we got brood rearing starting to ramp up. You're going to see a lot more movements, and some of the stronger pollen flows will start happening depending on what our weather does. Hopefully we'll get some more rain. I think, like I said, Wednesday and Thursday, they were predicting rain. So hopefully we'll get some of that, because I know that for us out here on the southern edge, Lake Lavon is really way down. We haven't had much rain out in our area. I know some of the surrounding areas did get some of the heavier rains that we didn't get. I know that I think Plano and stuff was getting close to the 3 inches, and we were getting like 1/10 of an inch out here. So it was actually going around us. So if you're watching that, and then like I said, hopefully all that start kicking up. You are going to see temperature roller coasters. So it's going to be cold and be warm. I think this morning was I think when I got up, it was about 28 to 30. And then of course, by the afternoon, it was already at 71. So it was feeling really good. And this will kind of impede your bee flight. So as it warms up, they'll go. But like Wednesday, with the high winds, you probably won't see a whole lot of bee flight going on, just due to the high winds. And even if it's a warm day, it'll be hard for them to fly around. So like I said, you need to monitor what's happening in your hives. Like I said, you still want about 20% in your hives, which would be roughly about 2 frames of honey stores. Make sure that they're close to the brood where they can access those. And like I said, you may want to start putting out some syrup or some sugar water out into those areas and get them to start eating on that. And then that'll help them boost up and have plenty of stores. You can use either the Boardman feeders or even the internal feeders. Some of those will hold almost a gallon, from 3/4 to, I think the largest one I've seen is like 2 gallons. And then they got the regular top feeders that'll hold, I think almost 2 gallons itself, or maybe a little more. So whatever feeding technique you might want to do, you may want to go ahead and add some of that, so that way that they'll have plenty of stores for them to work on. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and post them in the chat. And once I'm done with the slides, I will try to answer those. Just like I said, feeding syrup, like I said, you want about 20 pounds of stores left, or at least, or up to a deep full box. through February. Like I said, if you're going to be feeding, you want to get that out there now. You can start switching 1-to-1, but with the colder weather, you may still want to stay with the 2-to-1 if it's going to stay below freezing. That way it won't freeze up your syrup. You can, like I said, use a division board feeders, the entrance feeders. And I would say check 2 to 3 times through the month of February. Just like I said, those warm days, get in there, look at, see what they're doing, see what your brood's doing. If you need to add some more pollen patties, like I said, you can cut those down into quarters or halves and just make sure they're eating everything before you add another one on. And that way, you're not giving them too much. It's just going to sit there and go bad. You can always give them more. If you when you're cutting them up smaller, they can eat it off and you can add another one on. So we've done that to where we cut it into quarters or cut them in half, and then just put half a pound or a quarter pound on there, and then just come back, check them in a week, and then if they've eaten that, add another one on. Or if you have a couple of warm days all together, you can actually get in there and do some hive inspection. But like I said, make sure that you get those hive inspections done before another cold front's coming in, and that way you can they can get that lid sealed back down and keep yourselves warm until we get into our full spring. Which, like I said, I don't think it's going to be much longer. I think our spring's going to be here pretty quick. Like I said, pollen patties, just watch for the cold weeks, feed as needed. Some people want to know between winter patties and summer patties, and with your winter patties, it's less protein in them, but they have a lot of sugar. I would say go ahead and feed the regular summer patties if you're putting on sugar syrup. That way that you've got both going on, and they get a full protein patty. Whether you use AP23 or some of the brood builders or different ones, Pro Health has got them out there. I did have a question. Somebody asked about their syrup on what if they add any extra nutrition. We do add Honeybee Healthy to ours. I think Blake uses his Pro Health. That's the one that he likes, but all of it's good. It's got the essential oils and all the different minerals and vitamins that they need as they're getting through. And like I said, you want to keep the girls fat so that way when the springtime starts, they can really push the queen and start laying lots of eggs. Like I said, you want to keep ahead of the game. You're at that point now is staying ahead of the game. So I don't think if you're putting the feed on, just watch the brood patterns, and then like I said, make sure that they're not covered, pushing into her brood area to where they make her honey bound, but just keep enough on there to keep them going. Like I said, I've got several boxes that are both brood boxes are full of bees, and that whole top box felt like it was about 90 to 100 pounds. So they've still got lots of stores in some of them, but then I had some of them that I had to take some out and then put some into there and start getting them some pollen and stuff like that. And so like I said, you just need to check the bees, see what they're doing. And, like I said, if she's starting to put her good brood patterns in, and like I said, start feeding them some pollen patties, help them boost that brood. Let's do it in small quantities. And then, like I said, if your stores are getting down, go ahead and start to add the sugar syrup. That's probably what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, is adding some of the syrup out to the areas just to keep them boosted so that they'll make up through until we can really get a flow going. All right, so varroa testing. Like I said, if it's a warm area, you can get in there and test just to check out, but because they're coming out of the wintertime, your levels should be very high. So don't worry if you can't get in there and do it. But like I said, if you've got a chance in there to be a little proactive, and like I said, we got a couple warm days up in the 70s. Go ahead and check them just to see where you're at. And like I said, if you're not getting any readings on those, then you're good to go. But like I said, it's not too bad. It's not a pertinent that you have to start in February. If your mites, we're talking about 2 per 100. I think the threshold what the BIP puts out is 3 per 100. But if you're running about 2 per 100, you're pretty good. But like I said, if you start getting up into that little bit higher level, you may want to start doing some early treatments. Same thing if you've got plenty of brood, you might be able to try Hop Guard, oxalic acid, or formic acid. You definitely, with the oxalic and formic, read the directions. I know that I've been looking at the Formic Pro this year instead of the Mitaway Quick Strips. and there are some temperature ranges you have to follow. And I think with the Formic Pro, it runs about the upper 40s to like 84, or your Mighty Way Quick Strip will go from the 50s all the way up into the 90s. So definitely read those labels before you do any kind of treatment. Make sure that you're getting to the temperature ranges that's appropriate for those fumigation type deals, especially like with your oxalic acids. And I said, if you do it early now with the brood levels low, you won't have as much as a brood kill. Just realize that most of the time you have any kind of treatment going in there, there's going to be some brood death. But like I said, if you're doing it early on, she doesn't have the enough brood in there, and then you can get these treatments done and keep your levels down low. The biggest thing for Varroa is keeping your levels down less than 3 throughout the year. It's usually by midsummer, once you've done the honey flows, where the levels are really high because you've got your honey supers on. And just remember, no treatments during while you got your supers on, so that way you don't taint any kind of your honey. If you've got like I have with the 2 big old deep boxes full and lots of brood in there, you may look at the Apivar and Apigards, because like I said, they've got lots and lots of brood, and they can, and lots of bees, they can handle that. All right, so out overcrowding in February. So if you have that problem, like I said, I've got a couple of big boxes that way. It's a great problem to have. And I'll have to start preparing for splits this spring. When the box becomes 80% full, whether you have just a single sitting out there or both of them, that's when you need to take that action. So once it gets to about 80%, you want to make sure you add on to another box. That way they can move that around. Like I said, some of mine, I actually shrunk them down to the smaller box, and I'll be adding other boxes once it starts getting warmer. You can equalize those in between the 2 boxes, or like I said, your next option will be looking at splits for the spring, because like I said, you don't want to get them in, like I would say late March would be the time for the swarms to start happening. So what you try to do is prevent that swarming. But like I said, if you've got the chance and you can actually do a split, maybe you can do it with some queen cells, or possibly if some of the queens are out early, you can get a hold of those. I know Sean Smith, I don't know what time frame he has his available, but I know usually about March, April, he starts having his queens available. So, you check around some of our local guys and see if they've got the queens available, and you might be able to do an early split. Right, so your hive inspections, like I said, what to expect for in February, I would say anywhere between 2 to 8 frames of brood, depending on your hive population. Like I said, we've seen a lot of ours go broodless this year, so we're some of those that were about the size of a golf ball, there may be about 1 frame, but you should see an increase in brood development. You should starting to see more pollen stores as the trees start putting it off in February, like I said, with elm trees and stuff. So you should start seeing that come in. Like I said, make sure you got the honey stores available for them, because like I said, as they increase in the brood numbers, they're going to increase their food consumption. So, definitely want to be watching that, make sure they have lots and lots of stores. And then you should start seeing your queens starting to lay. If you're not seeing any eggs or larvae, I would definitely check your boxes. You may have no queen. There's, like I said, a lot of mine this year, I thought I went queenless, and I found the queens. Just like I said, they had shut her down because of the stores. But like I said, when I checked them on that warm day, right after the freeze, there were some eggs and stuff that she was laying in there. So, like I said, it's a good time to start really watching those. Like I said, you have the warm days, check on your bees and see if you need to increase putting your pollen or your syrup on. Okay, so questions. So the first one I got to James, it says, do you recommend oxalic vapor treatment at this time? This is a good time. Like I said, I would wait till it gets, warmer in the day before I put it on. But the temperature time for oxalic acid, if you're doing it as a fumigant, is great. But like I said, you watch your ongoing temperatures. Probably about April is when I would start backing off on the oxalic vapor. We did do some late treatments this year, and I made my mistakes going into the summertime with some oxalic, and I put a hurting on some of my bees. So definitely to watch the temperature range when it comes to your oxalic. We thought we were good, but like I said, it was a little too warm by the time we got it on, and we did some damage to some of our bees. But like I said, they're bouncing back. James also asked, when pouring sugar syrup into the in-hive feeders, do you pour right into the bees that are in there, killing some? What you can do is just pull those out. If they're empty, pull them out, shake them out, and pour your feeders in. You're going to get a few that decide they want to go back in there. No big deal. If you've got the ones that have the ladders in there, like I said, when you shake them out, try to get it in there before they try to get back down on those little ladders. And if you've had the bigger ones up on top, you can definitely fill those top feeders. You can fill those with no problem because they come up from underneath the bottom. But yeah, with those in-hive feeders, we usually just bang them out. If you've had any syrup in there, you may want, if it's a little bit left, you go ahead and dump it just to give them some fresh stuff. But it shouldn't be a problem, just adding it in on the sugar syrup. So Marilyn has a question. She says, I have 1 week hive and I'd like to put in an internal feeder with sugar water and hive live. Can I put this mixture directly into the black external feeder? And also, how do you feed dry pollen? So yes, you can put that directly into that black internal feeder. So what I usually do is I mix mine up before I put it into the hive. That way my hive alive and everything's all together. And then to put it in, I think there is some of the dry mixtures with the hive alive and stuff that you can actually sprinkle on the top. You can do some of that with the dry pollen, sprinkle it on the top of the frames, and they'll go ahead and get that. I have actually the large pollen feeders, but if you look on YouTube for DIY pollen feeders, basically it's just a set of PVC pipes that you can make and use out there, and it gives them a little space to you make a little elbow is what it is, and then you pour your pollen down in one end and they go into the front end and feed off of that. I did get somebody tell me this year that they used their extra hive box with the bottom board and the lid. They just used the like the super that they had empty, no frames in it, and they poured the dry pollen in that and covered it up and put a rock on it. That way it didn't get wet, and then they were going in and out of the hive box pulling the pollen. So if you've got an extra hive box laying around, no frames in it, you got an extra lid and bottom board, that's also another way that you can put out some dry pollen and get them to come in and out. Just make sure it's away from your other colonies. You don't want them to, even with the pollen, try to get them into a robbing situation. So Ann Henderson talks about, has anyone experienced with mineral oil with thyme and wintergreen fogging? So the as far as mineral oil, I'm not from the people I've talked to, wasn't, they weren't as satisfied with the mineral oil. I know if you go to, I think it's the scientificbeekeeping.com with Randy Oliver, I think he has some information on using mineral oil. And I can type that in the chat, for anybody to use. Scientificbeekeeping.com is a really good resource. Randy Oliver is a beekeeper, but he also has a degree in biology. So he does a lot of testing with the group up there in the Northwest. I think it's University of Washington. So he gets students come out and help him. And he does a lot of this different ones and test different things that people have talked about, see how well it does. I know, like here recently, he's worked with Dr. Marla Spivak, and they're looking at trying to integrate amitrage, which is the ingredient Apivar, and a glycerin strip. So, make it a little bit better that way instead of that plastic strip. So, yeah, I'm not for sure as far as the, fogging mineral oil. The people I've talked to said they didn't really have any good effects with it. But like I said, I'm not as brought up to speed on the mineral oil fogging as I probably should be. But I know that I think Randy Oliver's got it on his site. You just have to look for the blog where he talks about it. I think there's several people in the Northwest that use that mineral oil fogging. Oh, so I guess this is Peter saying, to remind the group that you actually get a higher chance of starving a hive in the spring with the brood buildup than you do during the winter, since they're not feeding as much brood. It has to take a lot more resources, and that is correct. As I said, as they increase in their brood building, then you definitely want to get that increase in the stores. And all right, so I have the Honey Queen. She wants to talk to us for a little bit, for a minute or so. So if she can get online, and hi, Gretchen. Well, I'll just turn it over to her. I'll turn it over to her for a little bit before we present our speaker. Go ahead.
Hello, I am Gretchen Cheddar, and I am the 2022 Collin County Honey Queen. So it is my job to represent our club and by talking about pollination, honey, and the beekeeping industry. I speak to people of all ages at places like libraries, schools, festivals, fairs, and many more places. This month, I have not been able to do a presentation, but I have been working on creating one. And this year, I would like to do a product demonstration where I demonstrate how to use one of the products of the Beehive beeswax to make some fun crafts and good things to have. So this weekend, I experimented making lip balm with beeswax, and I think it was a huge success. I liked the recipe I used. I'm going to try it again and make a few tweaks and see if I can make it even better. So I would like to give this product demonstration this year. So if you have any places for me to speak, whether it's about that product demonstration or just about a general presentation about bees or anything else, please email the Honey Queen Chair, Mary, at honeyqueenchair@cchba.org. And I or Isla would love to come speak. Thank you.
Isla, did you want to say anything?
I'll just add, I'm Isla and I'm Collin County's 2022 Honey Princess. So I've also not been able to give any presentations during these past 2 months, but I've been attending the scholarship classes and I've been kind of refreshing my beekeeping knowledge and about honeybees and the beekeeping industry. And I'd love to be able to share what I've learned with people around Collin County. So if anyone knows of any presentations, regardless of the size, whether it's a big group or a small group, Gretchen or I would love to give that presentation, and you can contact Miss Rasinger at honeyqueenchair@cchba.org. And we'd love to share the knowledge we've learned throughout our scholarship class and our Honey Queen training to people around Collin County.
Thanks, ladies. Always glad to have you all on board. I am looking forward to start using y'all a lot more. I think there is one that we're trying to set up for March. So I know that's the Master Gardeners Club. So we'll definitely work on that and get y'all ready for those. And I said, everybody out there, if you've got a school or a homeschool group or Boy Scouts or whatever, Girl Scouts, definitely need to let us know. Like I said, we've got the girls ready for presentation, just kind of work it in their schedule. So we can work that out. Like I said, just the Honey Queen Chair at cchba.org will get them into the scheduling, and then we can work it out. Like I said, if there is a conflict, we'll let you know, but hopefully we can get the girls out there and let them know about Collin County beekeeping. And also, Mary wanted to let you all know that if y'all want to help volunteer with the Master Gardeners booth, while the girls are speaking and stuff like that, we will be taking volunteers for that. So it is for Saturday and Sunday. And I don't have the time frame off the top of my head, but we can get you that information. We definitely like you out there to, like I said, it's a good time to get out there and talk about beekeeping, talk to people, especially in the Master Gardener group. You can, give them information about, bee-friendly plants and all kind of stuff of that. Mary's helping me out here. Is March 19th and 20th. I think it starts at 9 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. But like I said, we can get you that information. And if you're wanting to volunteer and help out, like I said, it's a good chance. We used to do this quite often, just with the volunteers from the club. And like I said, when the COVID hit, it just kind of, like I said, a lot of that just kind of went down the hill. And now they're trying to really get it back up and getting out there and teaching people and having this come through. And it's there over there at Myers Park is what the location. Miss Vivica talks about said some of the homeschool groups across our counties and states, do the groups need to be in Collin County only or presentations? So right now they need to be in the county. If they're out of the county, we just need to work out the details. if they're around the surrounding counties of Collin County, some of the areas that we like with the Dallas area and stuff like that, that actually for people to come in our club, we just have, like I said, we just have to work out the details and get the girls there, and see what, I said, see the time frame. So right now it's mainly if they're in county or are part of our club. All right, so today we're going to have Kim Townsend on. She has been with us for quite a while. If you don't know her, you will. Like I said, hopefully we can get our group back together and start meeting in person. She is doing our photo contest for the club. And then hopefully this year we'll be expanding her into the state fair. And so that'll be a great help there. Yep, she leads our group with there, and it also helps with our honey tasting for the judging that we do there for the honey judging, and hopefully we'll get that back on, so we'll see some of y'all's good honey. But she has her hands full. I'll just tell you that right now. She does a lot of stuff. She has, I think, the one company's called Silly Bees. It's her regular honey company. And she has that going on. And then she also has the Texas Stormtroopers, which is her removal company. So she definitely has her hands full. So Kim, if you are ready, we definitely appreciate what you do for us in the club. And then I'm kind of excited to hear some more about your removals.
Thanks, Skip. I appreciate it very much. And I will just say this one thing. It's actually Texas Swarm Troopers. My cousin came up with the idea. I thought that was very clever. But thank you. And of course, my number one priority is my stinky pig brother. He's a handful, but he's a sweet guy. And for those of you that don't know, my brother has ALS times 15 years. And so my mom and I are his full-time and only caregivers, but he's a great guy. And if you friend me on Facebook, or you don't even have to do that, just go look at my Facebook page and you can see he's such an idiot. He does these spontaneous pulling it out of his butt, very innovative weather reports that are anything but. And so I've dubbed him Clint the Weather Pig. So my nickname for him is Pig. He's Clint the Weather Pig, and he's become quite well known. And I love that now everybody calls him Pig. So anyway, he's number one priority, and after that come the bees. So thank you very much for that sweet introduction, Skip. I appreciate it very, very much. And by the way, I want to wish you all a little happy Valentine's to everybody. And I'm here to talk to you about bee removals. I got my very first PowerPoint presentation. I know that's the kiss of death saying that. Y'all are my guinea pigs. I did practice on somebody earlier today, and it worked then. So that too is just an omen that it's going to flub up now. But I have a brand new computer, 2 weeks old, and a freshly made PowerPoint presentation that I hope I'll be able to share with you. And if y'all have any questions, you just interrupt me or somebody tell me that a hand's gone up or something like that, because I'm going to try to change this to full screen view. And again, I'm a novice at this, so I need some help. So I believe I go to, can y'all see that? Please say yes.
That's it.
Woohoo! All right. So when it comes to doing bee removals, so you think you want to do bee removals, or subtitled, have you recently been lobotomized? Because a lot of people think I'm a whack job for doing this. And I would tend to agree. But I have to say, it's a lot of fun. So let me introduce you to the wonderful world of bee removals. So first, a little bit about me. Obviously, I was not born a beekeeper. Here's a picture of me in my nice pristine suit. And if you've ever seen Young Frankenstein, you'll recognize the book, How I Did It. Well, it feels like I've been doing this forever. And when I was a kid, if I could have figured out how to do this sooner, I would have. But as it was, God had me become a beekeeper in 2016. So what happened was we had bees that came into the eaves of our house. And so I did not know what to do about it, but I instinctively knew I didn't want to kill them. So I called a beekeeper, and I don't know his name, and I don't recognize him from the backside. I choose to forget the whole encounter, but let's just say amateur hour ensued. And even though I was not yet a beekeeper, even then, I recognized that there was a problem when the man went to put on his gloves and he was like, oh, and he turned them upside down and wax moth larva fell out onto our sidewalk. And I said, ew, what's that? And he's like, oh, just some little things to get in my gloves. And I thought, that's disgusting. And now as a beekeeper, I'm thinking, oh my God, he had a whole crop of wax moths in his gloves. So, ugh. But thankfully, that little encounter only lasted but a few minutes because he declared that our bees were Africanized, which needless to say, they were not. And I called a separate beekeeper, and that guy turned out to not only become a dear friend, but also a mentor. His name is Rex Smith, and he is a true professional bee remover. And ironically, there's a brand new group called the Texas Association of Professional Bee Removers, and he is the very first president. And I'm very proud to say that I was just notified that I was accepted as a member. And anyway, Rex is a great guy and knows his stuff because it is a business. It is a profession. That's not to say that you can't, cut your teeth practicing without becoming a professional. So literally the next day after Rex was the bees out of our eaves, I became a beekeeper. And he had explained to me, I said, hey, I've got an unassembled box in my attic because I said I wanted to be a beekeeper. My family bought me one for Christmas. And I said, if I go put it, can you put these bees from our eaves in my box? And he said, no. And he explained to me why the bees would always go back up to the eaves. And he said, I'll have to take them home with me for about 6 weeks. And then I can bring them back after they get acclimated. And I said, well, what if you bring me some of your bees and you take these bees? And he said, okay. And so literally the next day I became a beekeeper. And I don't know if you can see my eyes in this picture, but they're bugging out. And I was really freaked out to be that close to a hive of bees, but it was also very exciting. And in less than a year, I know you guys have probably already experienced this, but the minute somebody finds out you're a beekeeper, well, suddenly your neighbors, your friends, your family, strangers will call you for swarms. And you didn't even have to get a business card or put out a billboard. People just start calling you. So in less than a year, I was being called to do swarm removals. And no, I didn't know jack. I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of figured it out at that point. And I had not taken Mr. Talbert's class yet. But as you can see, then not too much longer after I took the class and then got a little more experience, the rest is history. And now I'm a beekeeper and a bee remover. So why would you do something this crazy? I mean, why would you do this? Well, there's a lot of reasons. First of all, you can grow your apiary. Bees are rather expensive these days. If you've been pricing queens or nooks or just full hives, they are unbelievably pricey, and understandably so. They're livestock, and they're an important livestock at that. So you can grow your apiary. You can help people out with a problem. I mean, if they've got bees in their eaves or anywhere else, they definitely have a problem. You can make a little money. You can definitely have some adventures in your life. And you can, encourage people to save bees and have you, me, somebody else save, remove, relocate the bees, as opposed to just killing them. And it's a great opportunity to talk to people and explain to them the importance of bees, because we know how much they are absolutely necessary for life. So you may be asking yourself, well, do I need a license to do this? And here's my cute little comic here. Give me a sec to read that. The answer is no, you don't need a license. But if you were going to be doing this for a while, you might want to get on the Texas Apiary Inspection Services page. If you're not familiar with it, here's the link right here. It's texbeeinspection.tamu.edu. They've got a little section here for forms and fees. First of all, Although it's not required in the state of Texas, you can register your apiary, whether you've got 1 hive or 1,000 hives. Of course, if you've got 1,000, it's probably a really good registered. But whether you have 1, 2, 3, or 10, you can register your apiary with the state, and it's free. That part is free. And it's a very simple form. And you have to be registered with the state in order to get the certification to do bee transportation. And so I have it right here, just to zoom in a bit. Down here on forms and fees, there's all different kinds. And those of you that send your bees off for pollination, you're familiar with the exportation, importation, intrastate. The fourth one down is the bee removal transportation application. And then below that is apiary registration, and you can actually get a brand from them. And then they list their fees and all that stuff. But down here towards the bottom is the bee removal transportation application. It's ridiculously simple. I mean, like, look at this. Put your name, if you have a business name, your address, your phone number, and email. And all you have to do is send a check in for $35. And my understanding is they're working on a link to make it easier so you can pay online. But for the moment, you have to send in a check or a money order. $35. It covers 1 year of having a certification to do these live bee transportation from county to county. It's within the state. Not that I've ever been pulled over and frisked, but still. If you feel that you need some sort of validation, you can go this route. 35, simple, it's very fast, they're very responsive. At the bottom of this page, you see that you can list your counties. If you're just moving bees, if you're just going to do bee removals in Collin County, just write Collin. If you think you might know some people or get some calls from Kaufman, add Kaufman. It's no extra charge. You can list every county in the state. It doesn't matter. So anyway, all you have to do is list that and sign it, send it in. Just know that these expire every year on the last day of August. So don't want to pay your $35 on, July 5th or August 11th. You might want to wait till September 1st, send in your $35, and then you'll have your brand new year-long or year valid form. But again, it's not absolutely necessary. It's just optional. So I want to talk to you about this. Remember, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And obviously that goes for puppies, babies, ponies, horse. I mean, I don't care what it is, and bees. So I want to take this moment right to mention that you absolutely must get compensation. I don't care if somebody gives you a sandwich. I don't care if you just ask for some gas money. Do not negate this profession, and it is a profession, by saying, oh, I'll just get your bees for free. Now, if you want to go catch a swarm for free, that's your business. It's usually the 5-minute thing, it stops if it's a true swarm. When you're doing bee removals, we're talking hours of your time. And I can't speak for everybody, but I'm generally willing to travel. So sometimes I drive one way an hour, and I will say that on average, a bee removal job doing a cutout is a minimum of about 6 hours. Rarely can I count on doing it in less, because you're doing live bees. You can't rush this. You have to, if you're using a bee vacuum, you can't just suck them out at full, suction strength like a shot vac, because you'll kill them. And the whole point here is to remove live. So it's a very slow process. And depending on how big the colony is, how involved it is in whatever structure that the bees are in, I mean, honestly, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours, that's nothing. So you cannot give away your time. I can guarantee you, if these people who, by the way, they're the ones with the problem, as Mr. Talbert says, and I love that. They are the ones with the problem. And if they were to call an exterminator will walk in and be there, 10 to 15 minutes and charge them hundreds of dollars, and they would, be killing the bees. But by showing up and using your skill set, which you will develop if you haven't already, with the investment of your precious time, your gas, your knowledge, and frankly, let's be honest, the risk of doing this, you must charge money. And may I remind you that you don't take those bees home and put them in your pocket. You don't sit them in your doghouse and they can't sleep with you. If you're going to get bees from someone else, their structure or whatever, you have to have a place to put them. And I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, hive boxes ain't cheap. You may want to make your own, great, but lumber ain't, and the price skyrocketed. So I'm just telling you, you have to charge money. I'm not saying gouge anybody. I'm not saying be rude or be, vindictive, but be fair. You at least cover the cost of a hive box, your gas, and your time. And then just be reasonable and work with people. So that compensation is a must. And I'm pretty darn sure that doctors, lawyers, grocers, the guy at 7-Eleven, secretaries, they all have to get paid too, and they have to pay their bills. So I don't know why somehow people think that they're doing beekeepers a favor by handing them free bees or allegedly handing them. We work for them. Nobody gives anybody a free horse. So I'll just leave it at that. So I have a letter that I wrote. Somebody sent me an email and they offered me some free bees. I'm going to let you come get the bees out of my roof. And I was like, oh, how benevolent of you. So that particular day, I was feeling a little bit feisty. And I fired off an email that I'm not at all ashamed of. And I happen to think it was kind of good. I explained, as I just did to you, with a little more information for somebody that's not into the beekeeping world, exactly what's involved in doing a bee removal and the repercussions of just killing the bees. If they leave what's in those walls or wherever, the comb, the honey, the larva, and all that stuff, the future problems that they're going to have. If they thought they had issues with just bees, just wait till pests and things like that start sniffing around looking for that honey that they smell, or the larva, ants, roaches, wax moths, hive beetles, rats, mice, all kinds of things. Not to mention the mess as the wax and things like that start to ooze into their drywall and elsewhere. So just to sum up, there's a little letter I wrote called Free Bees, and I've given it to my catch, and that, as well as a loosey-goosey for bees. It's sort of for a contract. I would recommend having homeowners, property owners, whomever sign it so that you're both very clear. Use it, tweak it to make it what you want to do. In other words, services are going to be. Don't leave anybody thinking that you're that wall or that soffit if you're not planning to. And if you are planning to, say it. But anyway, I have this information as well as some other things that I've provided to my cat. She's going to put it in the links on the YouTube page, I believe. So there are some documents here. So speaking of documents, may I suggest document. Every time you go to a bee job, if somebody calls you, start taking pictures from the time you get there. Even if you don't end up getting the job, take pictures, get a portfolio or something like that, make it a reminder for make it something that you're going to do for presentations or something like that. But you need to have it for your records. And, oftentimes the property owners, the homeowners, they kind of want to see what's going on. They're nervous or hesitant to get too close. Everybody thinks they're going to get attacked and killed if they get too close. And the reality is, odds are no, but still, they have a healthy respect, and that's fine. So I would say always take pictures. They like to see. Sometimes I tell them, if you'll hand me your camera, I'll go up real close and I'll get a really good picture. And they just love to share that stuff. They put it on social media and all that. And that's just very exciting. And then, like I said, for future reference. And so I'm just going to mention here as a side note, I had 2 incidents this past year. I've had 3 total of grave concern to me. One time, I felt I was in an unsafe situation. this guy gave me the absolute willies. Some of you know exactly the situation. The hair stood up on the back of my neck, just meeting the guy. And in short, he wanted me to crawl into a crawl space and shimmy under the floor and get some bees. And anyway, I just had the willies. And, between you and me and the wall, I would not be surprised if the guy didn't have some sort of a criminal record, but he gave me the creeps. There was no way I was taking that job. Secondly, this past year, I went and did an estimate at a job, and I had the creeps at this place. The whole house was empty. And I'm gonna tell you the Cliff Notes version. My spidey instincts were correct. And I'm so glad that I took pictures and that I reported this after the fact. But this was a human trafficking house. And so it breaks my heart, the facts that have come out afterwards. But I did report it to the authorities, and it both sickens me and breaks my heart to know that that's going on. But I thank God that, the Holy Spirit was working in me, and my spidey senses were just like, bing, 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 bing. And so when I got hired to do the job, I went took help, and I'm not going to lie, I had some protection, Second Amendment with me. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm a single woman and I do these jobs, and I'm not afraid to tell you that I take some protection with me. So all of that said, I am glad I had my documentation to be able to provide to the authorities on this house. And I had names. And when I got paid, I took pictures of the checks. I always do. So I had some more information as well. And thankfully they were able to track some people down. And then the third thing that happened this year, I ended up at a meth house. So anyway, all of this is to say, document. And, most of it's lighthearted stuff. You get to look back on it like this. So at a minimum, take before and after pictures. It's kind of a sense of satisfaction when you've come into a job and, you walk up and you just see some cute little bees and you're like, oh, look, there's little bees coming in and out. And then, you find out exactly where they're coming in and out. And then you open up a soffit and it's like, woohoo. And then after a few hours, you can walk away and say, ha, I did a job well done. And I'm very proud of that work. And, and then you got it to share with the home or property owners, and you can show them, I got the bees, I got the comb, ta-da. If they end up with more bees, and sometimes I do get these calls, those bees are back. And I'll say, no, they're not. I've got them in my own bee yard. And what's happened is sometimes if they don't close things up, if they don't button it up in the timely manner that I recommend, then sure enough, other bees will smell, those pheromones, and here they come. It's a perfect spot. Anyway, so one of your very most important tools, ironically, is a camera. So, if you're working alone, it's kind of a challenge to get some pictures sometimes. You can get one of these cheap hand holder thingies. There's all different types, but they work great on your little iPhones and whatnot. Then there's those fancy Gorilla Pods that you can wiggle and bend and get good angles. And then another thing, take a stylus. If you're unable to, I tend to work without gloves. I end up working with a spicy hive and I have to wear gloves. And one thing that I've noticed is I can't, my phone, I just sit here and bonk it over and over and nothing happens if I'm wearing my thick leather gloves. But if you take a stylus, then you can open, things and all that. The only thing is I can't spread it out in Zoom or something, but whatever. A stylus is very handy. And I've started buying these things by the case on Amazon. They're very cheap and I like to share them with people. So just FYI, keep a stylus handy for when you're working in your bee yard or whatever. And here's another reason why to always have a camera handy. You just never know what you're going to see. First of all, as Skip mentioned, we have a photo contest for our annual calendar that we put out for the Collin County Hobby Beekeepers. We have some excellent photographers in this group. And two, not everybody things that we get to see. Sometimes you get to see some kind of unique and unusual, really cool things. And it's just neat to be able to share. And this shot I took, I took a picture of what appeared to be just dark comb. I couldn't see until I got home and looked on the computer, and here are all these eggs and larvae swimming in royal jelly. I thought that was really cool. And then this was in a big 50-gallon drum out in the country outside of Salina. And the comb, it looked like coral. I just thought that was so cool. I've never seen anything like it before or since. And believe it or not, that little thing is an owl box. So it was overflowing with bees, which was kind of neat. So one thing you need to know when people call you, because they will tell you that they have a swarm of bees. And they're not always correct. Know the difference when, or be able to talk them through the difference between a swarm, which is what this is. This is a free glob of bees. And by free, I mean, they're not attached to anything. They've flown here, they're hanging out here. I caught them. Sometimes they fly off. If they haven't started building comb, then this is a swarm. So that's a swarm. This would be a cutout. The bees have moved in, they've built comb, they've established their home, they're very comfy, and by doing a cutout, you're going to have to get into the structure wherever the bees are, expose the comb, vacuum the bees if it's a job like these, and then cut out the comb, preferably very carefully to preserve the brood comb and things like that, and you want to get the honeycomb of course too. But know that that's something entirely different than a swarm. Also, when you're doing a job, you need to know, are you going to be doing a trap out? So sometimes bees are in a difficult spot. You can't access that, the comb, but for whatever reason, the bees need to come out. And you can see here on the right, this was a big tree around Wolf City. That was a trap out. I would say it was successful. And then on the left, this was this big stone urn over in Royce City, and that was a trap out. And the bees did leave. I didn't catch them in this instance, but they did leave. They just didn't want that box. So that's a trap out. And then there's a forced abscond, and that is where you work to draw bees out of something. And that's what this is. This is a big old water tank here in the Heath area, actually not too far from me. So those are 4 different things you need to know. Are we talking swarm? Are we talking a cutout? Is it going to be a forced abscond or a trap out? Those are completely different things.
Kim, I got somebody to ask a question. They want to know, how do you keep your camera free from honey while taking photos, or like you cover it up in a bag or something?
Well, at least as far as dropping it, I have an OtterBox personally. I'm not going to lie to you. Early on doing this stuff, I tend to keep my camera like this in my bee suit, and I ended up having to get a repair done because a drop of honey went straight into my microphone spot. Oops! I watched it happen. Even as I was pulling some comb out, I thought, no, and this drop just went. It was uncanny, just bloop. But no, I don't keep it like that. I do clean up my phone afterwards. I'm a bit of a germaphobe. Anybody that knows me knows I always have wet ones and things like that handy. When I'm doing the job, I can get as dirty as you can imagine. Ugh. But when I'm done, by God, done. And my phone, it gets cleaned every night before I go to bed and every time I'm done with the job. So, I use wet ones or Clorox wipes or something like that. And then I clean it off with something clean, and I have to get the propolis or wax or honey or whatever out of the little grooves on it. But that's what I personally do. I don't know that I would have as clear a shot if I had something over my phone. Now, I'm not going to lie, there are times where I start noticing some blurred images, and I'll look, and if I've got honey or wax or something on the camera, the lens itself, I have to clean those off. It's just something you take a break and take care of that. So the next thing is the right tool for the job. And believe it or not, there is no bee remover store, a Walmart for bee removals. Ironically, Walmart is the perfect place, or any other place. Frankly, Northern Tool or something like that, Harbor Freight, great places to go around and look for things that can be used in a modified way. It's actually one of my favorite things to do is wander down one of those hardware stores and just look at various tools and think, aha, I could get that in, a little tight spot and I could use this for cutting or whatever. But you can use a lot of things. I've taken things out of the kitchen. I've taken things out of the garage. I've used automotive type tools. It's just whatever. If you start doing this, you'll find real quick that you have to do of reaching in tight spots. And so this year I've invested in a couple of really long and really sharp knives. I have an 18-inch serrated knife. Thank God I got it, because it wasn't 3 days after it arrived that I ended up doing a job that my shoulder was all the way underneath in the soffit, and I had the 18-inch knife all the way up the line, and it still wasn't long enough to cut away some comb. But anyway, I'm just saying you can use all kinds of things. Knives are important for cutting comb. Of course, you're cutting wax, but don't be fooled by wax. When we're working with our honey and things like that, we're used to nice, soft, beautiful wax. Sometimes when you're doing a cutout and these bees have been in there, or other hives have been there before, and they're just old and just black. I have on occasion dealt with some comb that was so unbelievably strong. It's probably just mostly propolis at this point. I've had big, long knives, and I've had my entire body weight pressed on this, trying to saw through it. And it was all I could do to get the stupid stuff out of an area. It was unbelievable in its toughness. So just know it's not always soft and buttery. A lot of times it's hard. And this is a very physical job. I should mention that too, but it's so much fun. Did I say that already? Anyway, so just know that you have a lot of jobs to do. A lot of tools to choose from, and just kind of make a menagerie of stuff. But always remember when you're doing this, and this goes back to why you charge people money. This is a risky thing we do. Safety first. Always. I have seen some people do things very much like this. Having fallen off a 32-foot ladder before, just because some bracing gave way, I'm very nervous about getting up really, really high. So if I climb up, I am, by God, making sure everything is secure. But, there have been instances, even this past year, an experienced beekeeper was doing a bee removal with his son. And this is in Florida. And he was using a Sawzall, and it cut through an exterior wall, and it went through an electrical line. It electrocuted him right in front of his son. And, I know beekeepers who have fallen and injured their backs, broken legs, arms, and it goes without saying, there's risks of stinging, of course, dehydration, heat stroke, all of those things, risks. So safety first, always. And so I've mentioned, I've got also with the documents that I've provided to Mike Hatch, a list of suggested bee removal tools. And some of them are ridiculous, but I carry them. You just never know when you'll need that spatula. It just works just perfectly in that one spot, this one job. But all kinds of things. You just be amazed at what you use. Beekeepers are very resourceful, if nothing else. So I would encourage you, don't be, so swaggering around. I'm a man. I'm not going to do blah, blah, blah. No, take care of your body. You've only got one. Personally, I hope to make mine last a little while. And I'm a musician. My hearing is precious to me. So, I always wear earplugs. If you have a bee vacuum, the pitch of that thing is, it's horrible. I always wear earplugs. Anytime I'm using any power tool, a bee vac, safety glasses. I happen to see a picture of somebody just recently who was using a cutoff tool to cut into something, and the wheel of it broke off, and it was a beekeeper, embedded in his safety glasses. He took them off, and here's this wheel sticking in his safety glasses. Thank you, Jesus. He would have lost an eye, literally. Knee pads. Oftentimes you're working on your knees and you're in a water meter box, shut off valve box or something like that, or a low underneath a trailer, whatever. Wear knee pads or take one of those little foamy knee thingies. Gloves. Of course, I have my leather gloves. I try not to wear them because I've got these little Vienna sausage fingers. I'm not very dexterous with gloves. I try to work my bees without gloves just for that reason alone, because my gloves stick out about that much above my little squatty fingers. However, when I'm working with sticky stuff, I like to wear disposable gloves. We happen to buy cases, and I'm not kidding you, cases of disposable vinyl gloves, nitrile gloves and things like that. I'm allergic to latex, but nitrile gloves and all that stuff for my brother's care. So I carry boxes in my truck for doing bee removals. And, if you get a phone call, you can just do like that and throw them in their trash bag, answer your phone, do whatever. Or, hold your steering wheel and not have to worry about it getting sticky. So wear gloves and things like that too. It doesn't hurt. And there's always the infamous bee suit. If you're going to do bee removals, I would suggest that you work with something a little more hardier than just a single layer of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, you know what I mean? The single layered bee suits and stuff like that. Those are great if you got a single hive and they're gentle and they're sweet and all that stuff. But may I just give you a heads up? Not every hive is going to be gentle, especially those that are hiding in a soffit and they're very content. And then you come along with a sawzall or orbital saw and vibrate things. And then they're like, "Rah!" And here they come. Sometimes I have a triple layer suit and it has come in. I'm not going to lie. I'm on my 4th veil. Oftentimes I'm climbing around in and on and around things, and unbeknownst to me, my veil will get caught on something, usually those stupid hedges with the pointy leaves. I hate them. And people always plant them right next to their house, and then I have to get a ladder back there and climb up and down and deal with the soffit, and inevitably one of those goofy things will catch my veil. I won't know that my veil is split open like this, but the bees find it instantly. I can't tell you how many times I've checked my veil, all is well. I get to work, I start sawing, and before I know it, I'm getting pegged all over my face. I'm like, what? And the bees found that lovely little slit. So my point is, keep some duct tape handy. I have a list also I share with Mike of recommended tools. Duct tape. In a pinch, duct tape your veil. But a triple layered suit, I highly recommend. Vented is best because Texas heat, But by the way, this is the Beekeepers laundry day. Just stick it out on some sawhorses and use the hose on it. It gets all kinds of ick out of it. Anyway, there are no set rules when it comes to doing bee removals. I would say golden rule: treat people like you would like to be treated, do your best, and go above and beyond to help people, because they don't have the skill set or the tools or the experience to do this kind of thing. So you're trying to help people. So again, there's all kinds of tools you can use. If you're wondering why I have a level, it's because if I'm having to make a cut across the wall or something like that, I try to make it as straight and level as I can. I won't do the repairs, even though I do have those skills. It just means I'm going to be away from home longer, and I try not to do that. So whoever's coming behind me, I want them nice clean cut, whether it's soffit, drywall, whatever. I want them to have a nice clean, crisp cut. And I'm pretty good at making a single cut and accessing the bees. It's very important to me to not just bash holes in somebody's home or property, with a sledgehammer or something like that. I try to be very precise. So these are just some tools. Always have a queen cage ready just in case you see her. And then, having battery powered tools is nice. I'll be honest, I personally have not had that great of experience with longevity on, especially with saws. but maybe it's just, I bought these at a garage sale, so maybe that's the issue. Loppers and little handheld cutting tools and stuff like that. If you're having to access through bushes or whatever, they really come in handy when you're doing swarms to be able to clip away a branch. But sometimes, like I said, hedges right up to a house and you got to get a ladder in there. I always ask the homeowner first if I can trim. I'm a master gardener, so I try to be, aesthetic about it. But still, I let them know to be able to do this, I need to get there. And here's this giant branch. And so, I don't want to be like Prince Charming on Sleeping Beauty and be like, I'm a germaphobe. So I take things to clean things up. If I'm working on the inside of somebody's house, I always take drop cloths. I'll take, Lysol wipes. I'll take handy wipes. I always take trash bags to put all my, junk in. Paper towels. I'll even take extra empty unassembled boxes. Like if you're getting bees out of something, a wall or soffit or something, you can put cardboard underneath so that honey and things like that will drip down onto that. And then you can just take away the cardboard and not leave a mess all over the shingles or, whatever floor. And there's a little kneeling pad and some gloves. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, check the junk drawers, your kitchen, garage, everywhere. You can find all kinds of things. Once you've started doing this, you'll kind of get a feel for what will work to remove comb or to get into a structure if necessary. Ladders are handy. When I get a call, and if it's a second story, I pass on the job, and I personally refer second story work to my friend Rex. I just don't do second story anymore because, I'm a single woman. I'm not going to go climbing around a second story by myself. And again, I did have an incident when I lived in Seattle, and I don't even own a ladder that tall. So I just stay with single stories. And I'm very content to do that. If I can access from a second story window, I'll do that all day long. Or an attic, fine. But I'm not going to get a tall ladder and climb up and work like that. I personally am not comfortable doing that. So I know my limitations, and it'd be good if you recognize your own so that you don't feel compelled to do something that's risky and beyond your comfort zone, because you don't want to get hurt. So if you have any idea of trying to do this for, a living or an extra income or something like that, you might want to expand beyond the kitchen spatula and MacGyvering, these kind of things, and actually invest in some decent tools. When I first saw the announcement at one of the CCHBA meetings about doing swarm catching and doing removals, I thought, ooh, that sounds exciting. I really wanted to do it because not many people do want to do it. Again, it is hard work. It is long, tedious, very physical, very demanding, difficult work. And I love it. It is so much fun. But because I've decided to do this, and my mom works with me, she'll be with Pig. If I'm not with Pig, my mom's with Pig. And if I'm with him, then she can go and do stuff. But as long as she's willing to be with him when I get a bee call like this, then I thought I'm just going to invest in some equipment that I feel will help me either speed things along or do a better job. So you might consider, taking things up a notch and investing in some additional things. One thing would be some flashlights, varying sizes and brightnesses, LED work lights as opposed to halogen, because halogen get hot. You might want to get some of those flexible kind of neat lights. And even, you can have some power that you need a cord for or rechargeables. But may I mention, in case you didn't know this, let me be the first to inform you. Don't check your hives at night with a bright white flashlight. They will come after you. And my friend Stephen Poole and I had a couple of lovely experiences moving hives at night, and we both got lit up a couple of times now that I think about it. But if you use a gel, and you can buy red flashlights, you can buy gels, Amazon and elsewhere, just cut them to fit your little, flashlight opening. Use some simple tape and turn on your flashlight. I swear to you, the bees don't even they act like you're not even there. I've opened up walls, I've opened up ceilings, I've opened up floors, and just worked with several red flashlights. Honest to God, it was like I was invisible. It was amazing. Now, I can guarantee you from experience, had I turned a normal flashlight on them, they come right at it, and they come at me. So just an FYI, just use use a gel, and it's cheap. So again, if you want to take things up a notch, I made my first bee vac with a 5-gallon bucket and a bucket head from Home Depot. I think I spent maybe $55. I kind of, MacGyvered a hose. I wanted it clear. My hose is a little heavy, so I'm disappointed in that. But then I also made some attachments. So I'd have like a little extra long, pointier, smaller thing that I could get into crevices and tight spots. So again, totally MacGyvered. And then sometimes you need to get up, an arch or something like that, or even in a tree. A couple of pieces of PVC cut in different lengths will help to suck bees from a high spot that you may not have a ladder for, but you could stand on a normal ladder, and that will give you some extra height with the added PVC stuck in the shot hose. This year, or maybe it was a year ago, I learned about, I watch the Dirt Rooster on YouTube. He's one of my favorite bee removers. And by the way, side note, I just went to Hive Life conference in January in Tennessee. And one of the first people I got to meet was Randy. And he's the Dirt Rooster out of Mississippi, a nice guy. And he does great videos on YouTube. And people send him their bee vacs because, he's got a bazillion subscribers and views and all that. So people send him equipment to try out and get him to kind of plug. Well, I happen to see this vacuum. It's called the No-Kill Bee Vac. A gentleman named John Nelson builds it. He's a cabinet maker out of Rhode Island and a beekeeper. And it's not only is it beautiful, but it's hardy. And oh my God, my bees love it. In fact, once I got the bees in it, honestly, I have to kick them out. They want to hang out there and make comb and just live there. They love it. He paints the inside with a mix of propolis. We can talk about that another time. Just know that I'm a fan of the No-Kill Bee Vac, but I still use my own homemade vac for other applications as well. So those are just two of many bee vacuum options. Then this past year, I also found at Costco this really cool little cart. And no, it's not called the Handy Dandy. I just called it that. But it folds up like an accordion, and then it spreads out, and it can hold a hive box long ways, not sideways. It'd be great if you could get two in. You could get newt boxes in sideways, but you can put a hive box in it long ways. And other equipment, it's got a couple of cup or bottle holders on the end. The hand, you can push a little button and the handle comes down. It also telescopes out. The other end of it, it's got a little pouch. I take my notebook out because I do. Anyway, it's really cool, lightweight. It's got these heavy duty treaded tires, but it's lightweight enough that, you can fold it up and stick it in your car. So here I show one loaded up with a shop vac, my ever-present cup of tea, a couple of PVC extensions. Then on the right is this, it's called Jackery. It's a portable power station. To be honest, my brother purchased it. Again, he has ALS. He's on a full-time vent. He's trached and has a full-time vent. And we've been a little nervous that, what if the power goes out? So before we actually got a household generator, my brother bought this just in case. And so far, thankfully, I've been the only one to use it. But he lets me borrow it from time to time. But it's great. It's very handy. It's a little pricey, but hey, if it's going to save my brother's life. Anyway, but he's let me borrow it, and I can put it in here or take it on a job where I need a bee vac, and voila. So I and then you can see at the bottom there, I had a swarm that went above my reach. And so this is a pre-shot. I actually have a different shot where I'm at the top of the ladder with the PVC in my hose, and I could barely reach a swarm that was up there. No, I don't have a swarm trap yet. That's been on my to-do list for 3 years, but I don't have it yet. So I just went out and kind of sucked these bees down. But my point being, the cart worked, the power station worked, the BVAC worked, the PVC worked all together. I ended up with a nook out of them. So that was pretty cool. So the other night, my brother and I, when I was putting him to bed and doing a breathing treatment, we were watching Bob's Burgers, and these two knuckleheads were doing a science fair thing. I was like, no way. So I thought this was neat. So if you want to know where the bees are and you're not really sure, you can get this really cool tool. It's called a FLIR. And if I was smart, I would have had one handy to show you. I don't know why I just didn't do that. But it's this little tiny camera, infrared camera, that fits on the bottom of your phone. They make it for Android and for Apple. Now, I'll be honest, because I've got an OtterBox, I have to take off my cover and the hard thingy around here and then use my FLIR, because it has a little attachment, of course, that has to go into your phone, but it's not long enough to go into my phone with the OtterBox on there. But that's okay. I take it off just long enough to do these thermal images, and then I can, put my phone back together again. So there's a base model around 175, and then it goes up to Pro for about 300, and then it just goes crazy town. So let me show you, though. I've got a short video. I hope the video works. See if y'all can watch this.
This is my cool little new toy. It's a FLIR 1 thermal imaging camera. It's so cool. It's tiny. It hooks onto your cell phone. You just download the app, and then you aim it at something and you get thermal imaging. It can shoot you can do a thing where you can aim it at something and it'll tell you the temperature exactly. You can change the color palettes to see the differentiations and different heat zones. So in this case, I used it on my very first bee cutout, meaning I cut into a guy's house. But first I used my little camera. So look at this. You can see where I took a picture of his house. It may be a little difficult to see what's what. This is siding. This is brick. So watch this. So I could see exactly where the bees were. I ended up cutting into his house right about where my finger is over here on the side. And I only had to cut out those first two pieces of siding and across, and of course this little trim piece right here. And the bees were suspended up into that cavity, and then obviously the comb was hanging down here. I ended up extracting honey and comb and brood and comb that was longer than from above my elbow to hanging off the ends of my fingers, because it was just hanging down in this very small width of space. I'd say there was maybe about 4 to 5 inches from the brick then to the board back behind it, and I'll post pictures here in a little bit. But mostly I just wanted to show, is that not cool? I can find exactly where the bees are and not have to just start, cutting random holes in the guy's house. I thought that was pretty cool.
But anyway, you get the idea. With a FLIR, you can take either video or still photos, and it'll do a thermal image of something, and then you can pull the thermal image down and see it's an overlay. It's a thermal image overlay. And so then you can see what it's overlaid on. And so down here at the bottom left, you see that was, I don't even remember what that was, the garage or something like that, but you can most definitely see the heat reading where the bees are. So, I don't use it for every single job, but I would say I use this for probably 80% of my jobs. It certainly helps me to know exactly where the bees are, exactly between which two, roofing joists or studs or whatever, where they are. So I'm not just, again, cutting randomly. I don't like to make willy-nilly holes in people's homes. So I personally considered it a worthwhile investment. So there's that. And always, 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 always hydrate. Again, there are people who've gotten themselves in some very serious trouble by not taking water and by thinking they're just going to power through. It gets hot in your bee suit in Texas in the summer. And I mean, it's hot outside, but once you put on that bee suit, I don't care if you're just wearing a tank top and shorts underneath it, it's hot. And if you're in the bright sun, oh my God. And even if you're in the shade, it gets hot. So hydrate. Don't ever hesitate to hydrate. Take lots of water. Take more than you think you'll need. And also take snacks. I personally tend to bring peanut butter and crackers. I like to have a little protein. I'm gluten-free, so I bring a little peanut butter and crackers and apples. But my friend Carrie insisted that I put this picture that she took. She said, you need to include this. So I do not eat like that, but to amuse her, I put this picture in my presentation. It doesn't hurt to have other tasty snacks too. And I'm not going to lie, I generally treat myself after a really toughy job. Those of you that know me. So that is my PowerPoint presentation on bee removals, basically in a nutshell. There's more to it, but I can't tell you expect the general overview. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. Somebody says that you can buy an adapter for your OtterBox that will extend your connection for your iPhone, allowing you to connect your camera without removing the cover.
I did buy one, and mine, the little stem was just not long enough to get in there. It blocked. In fact, I have 4. But thank you.
If you have questions, just come on, post. We got a few more minutes. We'll take questions. Also, if you haven't seen on the Collin County page, Mike posted out in the chat box. If you go to the CCHBA.org under the members area, you can get the information that she has posted out as far the list and different things that she said that we would have available for you. So, like I said, it's under the members area, under the newsletters and meetings. So you can get her links for all that good juicy stuff to learn how to do removals. I still don't want to do removals, so I won't be on there. But I may get your freebie letter to start sending to people that say that you always get freebies. So if you have any questions, just like I said, we got a few more minutes. We'll take some on there. Wes has on here, says, what is your average cost of a bee removal job? I know that if you'll get with that group that just came out that Rex Smith has started up on the professional beekeeper removals, they do talk about pricing and getting an average price on there. Like I said, depending on the job, you may want to change, like I said, change your price varied on the job. I know that for him, when he used to do a lot of it on a longer ladder. He now rents a scissor lift and includes that into his cost of renting a scissor lift for the 2nd story and 3rd story removals. No,
our internet.
So somebody was wanting to know what your average cost of a bee removal is.
$3 million. No, I wish. I don't know what most people charge. I know Sean Smith and Patrick Darling and others have done bee removals. I explained to people that the current cost of just an empty high box with frames is around $250. Now, I don't charge that to do swarms. And this is what I started to say before I got zapped. They were saying on the TABPR or whatever that they do like swarms for like 150 or what am I going to say, the water meter boxes. Here were other people, other stuff. I will say that an average price for me is $450 or $500. But there again, I have the cost of a hive box. I'm spending a minimum of 4 to 8 hours on these jobs, and I'm driving there and I'm driving back. So there's a lot involved.
Yes, it's definitely not an easy job.
No, it's not. And, half the money goes to a place to put the bees.
Well, thanks again, Kim. We enjoyed it. Like I said, almost made me want to do it, but I'm not going to do it.
Well, I hadn't thought about this. If anybody ever wanted to tag along on a job, I'd be glad to let, I'd love to have a minion.
I know you've had several because I've heard the story. So
Yes.
all the way to Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. And we always go for ice cream. So, there's that.
Okay, so I got Peter. Got a quick question. Just want to know how many, what percentage of your bees actually stick around after you get them home?
I would say it's in the 90s. Honestly.
That's pretty good then, because I know on average that I teach, if you do a removal, survival rate's about 30 to 50%, just because of the way the bees are acting. But I know it's gotten up because now they're letting beekeepers do the job. So I know Rex does a lot with the removals for his bee yards.
Yeah.
Several other people that have
and-
lots from it.
Yeah, I've read or heard those low statistics. I thought, oh my God, are these people drunk when they're putting their bees out? I mean, did they just throw them in a bucket with a lid on them? Because I have great retention rate. And where some folks may disagree with me, I feel comfortable. A lot of folks don't want to get what they call feral bees. They're like, oh, I want to know the genetics. Well, all I know is these bees are surviving and thriving somewhere. And I personally, I would like to say that you would consider them survival stock, especially when it comes to Varroa. They haven't been pampered. They're making it on their own. So I've had really good retention rate, and I'm no wizard, because then I've also had bees that I've bought or bees that I've raised from nooks or whatever. In fact, I just checked hives 2 days ago. I lost 2 hives. Right next, there were 3 I got the same day. And these 2 had been thriving. They were absolutely thriving 2 weeks ago. I'm not kidding you. And I went out and all of the honeycomb was gnawed. I had cappings on the floor. Bees were gone. Honey was gone. Not one dead bee. I was like, dang it.
All I gotta say is welcome to the beekeeping world.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Kim. That was great. Like I said, I don't think I could do it. My age is getting up there. And I know, as I was telling somebody else, I said, Rex does those scissor lifts for his second, third story lift. And he actually puts that as a part of the price.
Oh, yeah.
Because the rental fee.
Equipment, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
All right. Thank you again. It was enjoyable. And tell Clint hi for me.
I will. And thanks for the invitation.
Not a problem.
Happy Valentine's.
Same to you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day to you. We'll be on to the next month, so watch us out there. If you are interested in becoming a volunteer or get into the board of, looking at what we do on the board, we will have our Zoom meeting next Monday. So that's available out there to you. Just let us know in advance so we can get you to the link and get signed on. But yeah, we are always looking for volunteers. Our whole club is a volunteer entity. So each person that has a job here is volunteered to do that job, and we appreciate all the help. Thanks, everybody, and have a good night.